there's a lot happening there. So we'll be having a conversation. I'm sure there's so much you want to ask Executive Director Japheth Aryiku. Let me welcome you, sir, to the studio. Good morning to you. Good to have you.
Good morning, sir. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be with you this morning.
Fantastic. Executive Director, Dubois Museum Foundation. What do you do?
Okay, so I'm here. I live in New York,
Okay.
by the way, but I'm a Ghanaian.
Okay.
I live in New York, and I go back and forth.
Nice.
And for the past 3 years, we've been engaged at the Dubois Center,
Okay.
having reached some kind of agreement with the Ghana government
Okay.
that our foundation, the WEB Dubois Museum Foundation, will raise a substantial amount of money to come and renovate and rebuild the Dubois Center, because currently it doesn't befit the legacy of the greatest African-American intellectual of all times, the first black man to obtain a PhD from Harvard, Dr. Dubois. So for the past 3 years now, we've been commemorating his passing.
Right.
He passed on the 27th of August, 1963.
Right.
So every year we commemorate that event.
So same will happen this year as well?
Yes, so on Tuesday we are having an event.
Oh,
at
just
the
this
Dubois
Tuesday?
Center. Yeah, this coming
At the
Tuesday.
Dubois Center?
At the Dubois Center,
Okay.
right, where we are going to have 2 events. One in the morning,
Okay.
where we have Dubois scholars, 2 Dubois scholars from the U.S. and a professor from University of Ghana.
Right.
They will come, have a symposium, and talk about the works and life of Dubois.
Okay.
We're inviting students and the general public to come and listen to that. Later in the afternoon, about 4 o'clock or so, we are going to have a wreath laying where the U.S. ambassador, myself, Dubois's family, his great-grandson is coming. Yeah, his great-grandson is coming from the U.S. to join us.
Wow.
In wreath laying. And the president of Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo, is also going to be there to lay a wreath on behalf of people and government of Ghana.
I see.
At that event, we're also going to announce that the foundation has obtained funding
Right.
to start the first phase of the project with the renovation and the restoration of the bungalow where Dubois lived and died.
Fantastic.
It's going to be a great event.
But you know there has been concerns over transparency
Right.
in this particular issue. There's been concerns and allegations of state capture and all of that. What's the truth in all this?
Okay.
As the executive director of the Dubois Museum Foundation, tell us your side of the story.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity again. So one, there has been allegations and rumors going around that the government has sold the place to us, the Dubois Foundation. That is not true. There's also allegation that the place has been leased to the Dubois Foundation. That is also not true. The agreement that we signed with the Ghana government says that the Dubois Museum Foundation, in collaboration with the Ministry of Tourism, will raise the money, develop the place, and manage the place, operate and manage the place for a period of 50 years.
Okay.
That 50 years, my dear host, is broken up into 30-20.
Okay.
That is that we'll be there for the first 30 years under the agreement. At the end of the 30 years, at which I will be 120 years, 125 years old, we will meet with the then minister, whoever is in charge, and assess our relationship.
Okay.
If we are happy with each other, if the Dubois Foundation feels that the government of Ghana has treated us well, or if the Ghana government feels that we have managed the place well, we would then continue with the next 20 years.
Okay.
Okay, listen to this is a very important clause, and I think my
I
ball
got
went
it.
to.
I got
Okay,
it.
so if we are not happy
Yeah.
and we cannot remediate the relationship, the Dubois Foundation walks away
Okay.
from the $50 to $80 million that we'll have spent at
Over
the
here.
center.
After the first 30.
After the first 30, if we are not happy with the relationship,
Okay.
there's no provision in there that says that the government has to pay back anything. We'll walk away and leave the management and operation back to the Ghana government. But the reason why we want to be there for a longer time is because, I don't know if you've been there, the place is all deteriorated. Okay, we don't believe that the Ghana government or its agencies have either the knowledge or the excitement or enthusiasm about the life and works of Du Bois to care much about the place.
Maybe it's the money that it doesn't have.
Perhaps it's the money that they don't have, or I know.
But you feel they've abandoned the place.
Yeah, the place has been abandoned. Right. So the Du Bois scholars, the people who care, the people who care about the Du Bois legacy says, hey, we are willing to provide our expertise and our money to manage the place on behalf of the Ghana government.
Okay.
The place is still going away. It's right here in Ghana.
So how are you planning to involve the local community and ensure that the center remains a public asset after you have renovated it? How much is it going to cost, by the way?
We're talking about $50 to $85 million that we're going to raise.
Okay.
We are going to fix the bungalow as it is. It doesn't look so we're going to restore it to the way it was when the Du Boises lived there.
And you've raised that fund already?
For that bungalow, we got about $5 million for that project already. And we haven't started a capital campaign yet.
Wow.
You know why? Because the Du Bois story is easy to tell. Any intellectual, any person who's going through high school or college knows about Du Bois. You mention him or Du Bois, and
it's not easy to raise funds for.
So we think it would be easy for us to raise the funds for it. Okay, so secondly, the tomb where he's buried is small, it's crowded, it doesn't look too good. So we're going to build a whole new memorial pavilion, beautiful, with space for reflections and all of that.
Okay.
The third one is that we are going to build a bigger complex that will have a books library, a books restoration lab. You should see the books that are falling apart now. So we're going to fix all the books and academic regalia. You know, his PhD robes, honorary doctorate robes, they're all falling apart. And we're going to fix all of those things. And they become items for exhibition. And particularly, though, we're envisioning scholars coming to Ghana in droves, to come and study the legacy of Du Bois and to publish books about Du Bois and his time here in Ghana. Now, getting the public involved, I was just talking to one of your colleagues over here, and he remembers going to the Du Bois Center, not so much to tour the place,
but for wedding reception.
So that is the problem that we have. So we have to educate the Ghanaian public and the whole African continent about where Du Bois died and is buried and his contribution to the continent. So we have a lot of work to do ourselves in terms of the public relations and the education that we're going to be doing. So we intend to embark upon that. We have some funding for that. And in fact, we're planning, hopefully, to work with the Minister of Education to introduce in the school system a curriculum about the Du Bois legacy and the African-American experience.
I like it. Mr. Japheth Aryiku is the Executive Director of the Dubois Museum Foundation. We are talking about their campaign to raise funds and renovate the facility and make it the bastion of academic research about the man W.E.B. Du Bois. It's obvious. Okay, so you've told us how the local communities will be involved in it. So we do not only go there for wedding receptions, but to go and academically stimulate our thoughts and learn about our history. How are you going to engage the youth in preserving the legacy of Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois?
Okay, so that question came up yesterday on one of my appearances on the television on the youth station. The young people of Ghana really are the custodians. They are going to be the custodians of this legacy of Du Bois. They are the custodians of Ghana and its assets and all of that. So how do we get the youth involved? There's a tendency for us to not, the youth anyway, not to read too fast and not to read too seriously. But one of the things that I quoted on that show is that I got to know Du Bois by learning a quote from him, a very famous quote, which everybody associates with Du Bois. And that is that he wrote in his seminal book, Souls of Black Folk, the problem of the 20th century is a problem of the color line. The relationship between the darker-skinned people of Africa, the West Indies, and the lighter-skinned people of Europe and the rest of the world. This is from W.E.B. Du Bois.
Wow.
Now, I say that he made the biggest mistake by thinking that by the end of the 20th century,
that would have been solved.
My brother. He thought that by the end of the 20th century, the black and white, brown and would live together in peace. But what do we see today? it still goes on.
The tensions are still there.
The tensions are still there.
Undercurrents.
So the younger people of this world need to know that, need to understand that we have a lot of work to do in terms of preaching the idea of how do we live together. Look at what's happening in the Middle East. All the wars, all the killings that is going on in the Middle East.
Yeah.
So you younger people need to know that there once upon a time was a man who was so much concerned about relationships.
Mr. Japheth, tell us about, in your final thoughts, what you would like us to know about partnerships, how that plays out in rehabilitation, and the future of the Dubois Center.
Okay. So all the work at the Dubois Center that we envision is going to be done by Ghanaians. We are going to be hiring between 30 to 40 to 50 people. All of them are going to be Ghanaians. We are not bringing any expertise from America to come and run the place. Ghanaians are going to be trained locally and abroad for them to run the place. As a matter of fact, next month we have a few of our volunteers going to the U.S. I've always said that it's a unique museum that we are trying to build around a single person,
Right.
W.E.B. Du Bois.
Right.
Okay, if Ghanaians are going to run the place and they are going to be able to tell the story, they need to be immersed in the story. So
Right.
everybody that's going to be working at the Du Bois Museum is going to be sent overseas.
So I imagine just as we have the Martin Luther King
museum,
and for all the national heroes around, do you think we do that well enough here in Ghana?
We don't do that well here in Ghana at all, and I think we need to change that. So the Du Bois Museum is going to set an example for us to follow and to praise and to make sure that the legacy of our heroes is kept intact and spread around the world. So we're going to engage all the young people, absolutely. That we are going to have seminars, we're going to have conferences about issues in the country and around the continent. Because Du Bois was a world figure. He
Right.
talked about decolonization. He talked about the emancipation of the African continent. Kwame Nkrumah, Jomo Kenyatta, Joe Appiah, Nnamdi Azikiwe. They were all young people in England when he started going there and talking to them and encouraging them. Go back to the continent and fight for the liberation of the continent. And that's exactly what they did.
Mr. Japheth Aryiku, it's been a real pleasure talking to you. Thank you for passing through and thank you for the work you do.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Executive Director, Dubois Museum Foundation.